Appreciate everybody joining this morning for the last of our cookie phase out cookieless world webinar series. Thanks to everybody who's joined throughout. Again, we're trying to keep these webinars posted on our site. We'll definitely be touching on these topics again as we get into our upcoming tourism tours throughout the state, which will be starting in, I think we're like 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away, which is crazy to be thinking about. So, we'll certainly be continuing these conversations then. Any questions that arise in the meantime, certainly happy to be here to respond, but also looking forward to those discussions, hopefully when we see everybody in person here in the next few weeks. Today is going to kind of be a two-part session. Hannah from Madden, who's been with us and really led the charge on this, is going to be talking through kind of some summaries and some wrap-ups and kind of some recommendations and things to be thinking about, kind of coalescing all the different speakers and topics and recommendations we've heard over these last few weeks. We're also going to have our in-house content expert, Andrea Rayburn, talk a little bit about kind of some of the content development thinking that you can implement as we start thinking about some strategies for an improved first-party data strategy and that value payoff to folks, particularly in the programs that we execute and ways that we can provide that information, which is probably a little different than retailers or other businesses. So Andrea's as good as it gets anywhere in the country, so we are very happy to have her on our team and presenting here today. So I'm going to hand it over to Hannah to walk through some of the summary information, but again, feel free to ask questions, whether it's the chat function or however you want to jump in. This is our last session for this webinar series, but again, we're looking forward to seeing everybody in the next few weeks during the tourism tours, and we'll definitely be bringing up some of this information then, and happy to talk through questions, recommendations at that time. So Hannah, it is all yours. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully, for most of you, this is a welcome back. But if this is your first time joining the webinar today, I'm going to fill you in on a little secret. You somehow cheated the system because today we're going to review all of the most important topics that were highlighted throughout the series and break down how each of these topics directly impacts you as a DMO. So if you zoned out at all during our webinars, today is the time to zone back in and take notes, because we're here to give you the tools to help your DMO navigate advertising in a world with constantly changing data privacy regulations. Now, before we move on, and I can't emphasize this enough, but if you have not watched all 4 of our webinars, I highly encourage you to go back and watch them, because there's a ton of great information and conversation broken down in bite-sized nuggets that makes it really easy to understand why we are talking about data and internet privacy changes and how all of these changes directly impact us as travel organizations and destination marketers. In our 5-part series, we had an incredible lineup of speakers that were able to shed some light on how cookie depreciation is impacting advertising. So we had Dave Golden, the Vice President of Product at Sojourn, who talked through a few different solutions that will replace cookies in the future and how Sojourn is preparing a cookieless solution for advertising. We also had Tim Pogge, a sales engineer supervisor at Sharp Spring from Constant Contact, and he explained the importance of first-party data collection and how it can be used in email marketing, how we can create a really strong strategy around inbound marketing, permission-based marketing, and segmentation to engage with our travelers. And we had David Chastain, Vice President of Tourism at Epsilon, who gave us a really detailed presentation around privacy regulations, how they have changed over time, and how we will now be seeing more advertisers partnering directly with publishers to access their first-party data. So now the big question is, what brings us all together? And the answer is that we all have a goal in mind. For most of us, that goal is to make money. The goal is to target the right people that are most likely to book a trip to Idaho. And one of the best ways to influence an audience is through advertising. So as we're navigating this new era of advertising together, we're really looking to find a solution for how to accurately target our audience, measure the results, and then produce a really strong return on our ad spend. So we brought all of these partners together to talk through solutions that they have identified at their own companies. And luckily, we get to steal these ideas and strategize how we are going to focus on collecting our own first-party data as a DMO. But before we dive into the key takeaways from the webinar series, I want to quickly review how we got to this place where data and privacy regulations are impacting the future of advertising. Data privacy regulations are changing the way we can target people. As a quick summary, in the United States, we have over 54 different laws protecting data privacy. And of course, they can't make it simple for us and create one singular federal law that covers privacy for all types of data and for all states. So since there is no comprehensive federal privacy law that regulates how companies can use data, instead, most states have developed or started to develop their own laws around data rights and usage. Now, as these laws are being developed, there are a wild variety of acronyms that are created to define these regulations. And without getting too into the weeds, some really common ones are GDPR, which was one of the first privacy laws created for the EU back in 2018. And it was basically created to enhance an individual's control over their rights and their personal data. Then right on the tail of that law, just a few months after, there was California passed their California Consumer Privacy Act, CCPA. And the goal of this law was for California residents to have the right to know about data being collected on them, the right to delete that data, and the right to opt out of being tracked. So GDPR and CCPA really sparked this new initiative for states to develop their own privacy protection laws. So now we have a Privacy Act for Virginia and Colorado, and I wouldn't be surprised if that state count grows significantly over the next few years. Now, hand in hand with all of these privacy regulations, internet browsers are following this trend to support user privacy and tracking. And if you have been sleeping through these webinars the past few months, you may not have realized that Google Chrome is removing third-party cookies next year. But for the most of us here that have been paying attention, understand that this is a big deal. Every single webinar touched upon this fact because it's the core reason we are adapting our marketing strategies around collecting as much information as we can on our target consumers. So what does that mean again for DMOs? How does third-party cookies going away directly impact us? And it impacts us because without the ability for advertising companies to place third-party cookies all over the internet, we don't get to track people across websites and across devices as easily. It will be harder to identify that a user is interested in something like outdoor activities, unless that person tells us they are interested in outdoor activities. And up until this point, we have trusted companies like Google to track users with their third-party cookie tracking so that we don't need to do that work to go out and find those people, but we still end up serving our ads to the right people based on those audience segments that Google can make for us. We've always just relied on Google to collect the data for us to use with advertising. And we've seen really great results by trusting these vendors to serve our ads to people that are interested in booking a trip to explore Idaho. But now the world is shifting for DMOs, and it's time to start doing that work ourselves. It's time to revisit our data strategy so we know our target audience better than any advertising company. So this is what our goal is for you today. We want you to walk away from this webinar series with a DMO toolkit filled with best practices and key takeaways for how you can get started. And the trickiest part is just identifying where to start. So we're hoping that you can take these tips and focus your marketing efforts around them to set yourself up for success when cookies do go away next year. Now, the first tip in our DMO toolkit is to focus on creating a first-party data strategy. And when I say focus on your first-party data strategy, I'm talking about taking a step back, looking at all of your marketing efforts for the year and identifying how you are making data collection a top priority. First-party data is information that you as a DMO can see and you can control. It's information that you can collect directly from your website users. And once a person gives you their information directly, you now own that data. At Madden, we often like to think of these interactions like a cash register. For DMOs, we don't always have a true exchange of money. However, we have to have specific actions across our website that are meaningful to us. Some of the strategies we use for Visit Idaho is to analyze the data we collect from our Google Analytics pixel. We can identify user interest based on the pages they visit and how long they stay on those pages reading our content. We can also collect data through our email signup or visitor guide request forms. So now that you know collecting information on your audience is extremely important for your future advertising efforts, focusing on your first-party data strategy is really critical to be able to successfully identify your target market's interest and provide valuable content to them. Which leads us into our second tip in our DMO toolkit, and that is to provide value with our content. As a DMO, our content is what most travelers are looking for when they are researching a place to stay or getting inspired for their next vacation. There are many studies that have identified people are willing to share their data in exchange for value. So the content on our website is where we can really shine in that exchange of value. And I am so excited to introduce Andrea Rayburn, Idaho's content and tourism specialist, who has years of experience creating an extremely detailed and successful content strategy for Idaho tourism. And today, Andrea is willing to share some of her best kept secrets so that we can all build a truly successful content strategy. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Andrea.
Thank you for that very kind introduction, Hannah. Super excited to talk about content strategy. This is an area I love to geek out about, and it's definitely a very broad area. So today we're going to really focus on creating blog content. What is that initial jumping off point as you're trying to figure out how to engage this audience and collect those leads? So we are going to start with quality beats quantity. This may sound a little off because we're all competing in this space. You want to be in front of everybody all the time. But due to the magnitude of voices that are in this space, the best value you can provide is well-written content. So what does that mean? Is it grammatically correct? Is it missing punctuation and spelling errors? Has it been fact-checked? It's also not a bad idea to use tools if you're not feeling super confident in your writing skills. We use a program called Grammarly, and I would highly recommend that as you start moving into the content space to utilize a tool like that as well, just to feel confident in what you're putting out. Quality also includes going above and beyond the expectation. Are you providing details that consumers cannot find anywhere else or would have to take a wealth of time to try and find? Proper photography is also included in this. So what I say by proper photography is your photography within 3 years. Best practice is to have photography 1 to 3 years. After 3 years, styles are going to change, landmarks are going to change. And consumers are going to feel a little confused about what they saw versus what is in real life. So pay attention to those things. Also make sure that your photos are properly sized. We've probably all had an experience where you're looking at someone's content and you're like, why is this a thumbnail? Where the heck did this come from? So we want to be making sure that we're giving them quality visuals as well to accurately represent our product. And remembering that quality content will position you as a clear subject matter expert in your destination. The next important detail is to produce with regularity. This is important because we want to set up a consistent conversation with our consumers. It can feel really overwhelming to try and come up with this strategy again, because it's easy to feel like I have to do massive amounts of work every day, and that is not the case. As Visit Idaho, when I started in 2015, we were working on a 2-a-week cadence, so publishing a little over 100 articles over the course of the year. Due to the competition in the space and the value of the content that we wanted to put out, we've pulled that back and we're producing a blog a week. It's sanity on our side, and I'm definitely not ashamed to say that. So it's sanity, and it gives us the ability to have a little bit more room to properly plan. Consistently publishing also tells your consumers that, hey, I have important stuff to tell you, and you can count on the fact that I'm going to show up every week or every other week with something that's important to you. Best practices with that one too, you should be practicing or publishing at least twice a month. So now, how do we build the content? Easy trends are your friends. It can take a little while to feel like to get into the swing of things, and to say, okay, I have this destination, I have all this content, where do I even start? This would be my suggestion. Easy trends are going to be seasonality. So what happens in your destination? Idaho as a whole is a 4-season destination. And we all have activities connected to those things. For example, in the spring, people are looking for wildflowers experiences and camping tips. Summer, people are looking for water activities, ways to cool down. Fall foliage, fall festivals, fall food, like pumpkin spice lattes. Winter, you're gonna run into skiing, boarding, holiday lights, and festivals. These are things that you can plan on. You know your destination is participating in some way or another with these seasonal events, and they're easy to plan for and a great way to build your strategy. Another thing I recommend would be engaging and looking at your social conversations. We all have Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. As you start seeing questions come in, either in your DMs or in comments, start using those to build your content. As soon as you get a question that comes up more than twice, I would highly recommend considering it for content. The reason being is now you can take it, put it in a blog, and now when you get that question the next time, you're delivering all of the information to the person asking the question. You've over-delivered, and now they know that you're a trusted resource in this area. So it kind of is a trifecta of good things that happen. Consumer calls is going to be the same way. Many of us have 1-800 numbers, again, to help travelers as they're trying to figure out what's going on in our destinations or might have questions. If there is a call that you get over and over and over again, turn it into content, because this also offers you a really fun way to say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for asking about this. I have the perfect blog for you. Would you be okay if I took your email and sent this to you while we were on the phone? So now you have, again, really great customer interaction. You've over delivered. You've now engaged with their email, and they're going to get content that invites them to sign up for the email. And now they know that you can deliver on the goods. And obviously website analytics are always part of everyone's conversation. And I would also say events, with the tiny caveat of content is not a place for flyers or announcements about events. What people are looking for is going to be details on how to experience the event. So this is going to be how to spend 1 day experiencing trailing of the sheep, or 3 days at Tree Fort. Utilize the event as your jumping off point, but go beyond just announcing the event to tell your consumers that you have something that's really valuable and can enhance their experience when they're in market. So number 4, what can we do better than Google? I know this sounds pretty ludicrous when you say it out loud, because Google is Google. So what I mean by this is we are the boots on the ground marketers. There are things that we see and do and touch and experience that Google can't deliver on. They don't know. So the areas that we can excel and beat Google in our content are going to be turn-by-turn directions. We have several communities and partners that tend to have complications sometimes with signage issues. Use that. You tell them, hey, you got to go past the blue barn and then take a left at the rock that looks like a flamingo. That is super valuable information they're not going to find by just trying to figure it out on a map. Tips and tricks. Again, you guys are the ones who know, hey, there's a secret parking lot behind this attraction. or you're able to say, okay, this is a really popular attraction. We're going to tell you how to experience it without the crowds. So that might be the hours between 8 and 10 a.m. are the best. There might be a discounted time frame. All of that information brings value to the consumer. Showcasing your local eateries, breweries, and food trucks. Again, this allows you to create a hyper-focused lens on what's available in your destination and what makes it different and special. I would always take these opportunities where you can snag them. And I would say, especially with this one, food recommendations are such highly consumable content. People want it all the time. So if you panic, go with food. And then just remember that we want to also create content that encourages people to explore our destinations in different ways. This has become more important as we talk about over tourism and feeling like we have several destinations that are being loved to death. So let's use our content to reposition how we want people to experience our destination. So these are scenarios that are going to be, if you like this, try this. So you're still acknowledging what's available in your area, but allows people to see that there are other options that might fit exactly what they're looking for, and allows you to kind of start to refunnel people through the space of your destination. The last little tidbit here is double down on your printed collateral. Printed materials are awesome. There's a reason why we all do them. I am a person who loves hard copy, so printed materials are my jam. We all know that they are time consuming to produce as well as expensive. And unfortunately, while they're great materials, they don't get the eyeballs that we wish they would in digital search, because PDFs and printed materials or digital flipbooks like Issue, again, don't hold the same kind of search value. So what do? You turn it into content. So if you have, say, an ATV guide, and you want more people to engage with your guide, to order your guide, to download your guide, what you can do is look at your guide and go, okay, I'm going to come up with 5 trails for spring. You don't have to give them the whole thing, but create a piece of content that draws from what you've already created. So you can create a story about 5 trails for spring. And then at the end of your piece, you're going to say, hey, but wait, I have more goodies for you. Don't leave just yet. You're going to link out to your PDF or your flipbook. So you're pushing them through your site, extending your time on page, and getting them to see that you can over deliver and over deliver. I continue to give you valuable content. Repurposing is a lifesaver, and can honestly be really, really helpful when you have a very, very small staff. The asterisk again here is always going to be repurpose with proper permissions. If you have contracted for a work in a piece of printed collateral, just make sure that all of the permissions as associated with photos and copy allow you to move that information into an alternative space. As you can see, one of the things we did with the 2021 travel guide was this whitewater piece that we put together. We moved that into a fully digital piece as well, because for us, we didn't have an article that encompassed the entirety of kind of whitewater options within the state. So for us, that was a valuable piece to move in, to kind of hook people in and then move them into the book. So that's kind of the quick version. I'm always happy to answer questions or have phone calls. I know content is not an easy space or an easy monster to create. So as always, please feel free to reach out.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrea. We just wanted to pause real quick and see if anyone did have any questions really specifically related to content before we moved on.
I had a couple questions I wanted to just bring up real briefly. Andrew, thank you for that. You obviously do an unbelievable job for our Visit Idaho brand. A couple things I wanted to just touch on, and maybe just execution wise or like content for dummies. But how, we talk a little bit about like bite size, but like how long should some of these pieces be? I think if I'm going to put myself in, if I'm going to put myself in the shoes of somebody that's like, okay, I need to be doing this, maybe done a little bit of it. I would probably go to like, this needs to be like a newspaper article or like a magazine article, but like this doesn't really need to be that long, right? And so maybe talk a little bit about like some of the recommendations you have in terms of size, or just I think this is a lot, hopefully this is a lot easier to bite off than maybe I would make it seem in my mind if I were embarking on this. And then the second element of this is how often do we update those tried and true pieces, right? And so if we're a DMO and we know that, hey, there are 3 or 4, things that are just really special about this place, and we knock those right off of our list from a content perspective, we nail them. But, then they maybe sit there for a while, or, well, we already did those. How do you approach kind of reworking some of the things that maybe you've already put out, but that really exemplify some of those key locations, and as you add and just update those?
Sure. So as we're talking about lengths, for sure, my TV producer heart is torn between something that's like a 30-minute TV second and a 30-second. So what we have found for Visit Idaho, that about 750 to 1200 words is our sweet spot. And that's going to be utilizing photography or another visual component about every 100, 150 words. If you're going to go beyond about 1200, which we do have, you just got to make sure you got the goods. Probably one of the most successful pieces that we have had that has been beyond our traditional length is our fire lookout content. The writer who creates that likes to be extremely detailed. So those tend to run us more in about the 1800 to 2000 word count ballpark. But the benefit to that is she does a really good job explaining road conditions and expectations for, here's your hike in, here's your drive in, here's what was hard to identify. So it shouldn't be words just for the sake of words and fluffy narrative. Make sure that the information that you're conveying is of significant value as you're starting to move into that 3rd, 4th, 5th page scroll. For content that is updated or performs super duper well, and we know that we need to go back to it, there are a couple different ways we can look at it. I love to look at the search information that we received from Madden Pro Domo, and then also pair that with what we were seeing as the story went out on our social platforms. Was there a resounding question or clarification that was commonly addressed? So that can become the next iteration of. And then the best practice in that case would be to link to the original article. So those two continue that like symbiotic relationship. I think, yeah, that's kind of what I would say on those items.
And that makes sense. I mean, especially for that second item, and especially in terms of kind of the segmentation that we've talked about, right? And the content that provides value, that I think, how Hannah kind of kicked this segment off. So when you're putting something out there and you're seeing the social feedback, or you're looking at analytics platforms, whether it's Google or something else, you're able to then see if this did hit, if this resonated, and that's something that is providing value. And you evaluate some of that feedback, whether it's in comments or emails, or you're then able to kind of continue that segmentation and continue providing that through other channels. Maybe it's email, maybe it bleeds into becoming a creative strategy for some paid media or something like that. Based on that feedback, it allows you to segment a little bit more easily.
Definitely don't be afraid to utilize what's happening again in your social space. I think that's been one of our best sounding boards. And I think, again, one of the great things to think about is social lasts for 24 hours, right? As you're dealing with stories and a couple of these other things. So if you have something that you're like, ooh, this could be good, but I want to see like kind of what our reaction is, put it out in the world. Let it ride. Yeah. I mean, again, our fire lookout piece, we knew when we did this story initially, we had some good buy-in. The social comments were wonderful. We did an additional iteration of it with the same author. And she made us, as part of that contract, some really phenomenal reels And as of yesterday, that reel, completely organic, was our highest reel views ever in the history of the Visit Idaho account, at 305,000. So again, all organic, which is super cool, but it's just a nice reminder of like, oh, okay, people are looking for this. So how can we continue to amplify the information and give them something that they didn't necessarily get in iteration 2 or iteration 1? So how do we continue to reshape that? In this case, we're getting a lot of questions about, okay, well, booking is hard. How do I even get these things? So the next iteration of this for me in my head is how to understand the rolling reservation process, and why when you go and look at one lookout, you shouldn't give up because of the way the reservation system. So how can we educate our potential travelers on ways to improve their possible stay by getting them the information they need to have?
I was literally looking at that like 2 hours ago, and so we're not doing a webinar on how to do that because that's a best kept secret. So that's
Great, noted.
Yeah. No, that's great. Thanks, Andrea.
Sure.
Great. I don't know if we have any other questions. We haven't had many brave souls with questions throughout this series, but but thank you, Andrea. That was really incredible. All right, I'm going to keep moving on. All right, so next tip in our DMO toolkit, now that Andrea has walked through some really helpful content tips and tricks, we want to round out our series with a few key elements around developing an email marketing strategy that is integrated with your content strategy. So the first step to building an email marketing campaign is to clean up your current email list. A paid resource we currently use to validate emails is Zero Bounce, but there are many services like this that let you validate emails in a free trial. I highly recommend doing that. With Zero Bounce, you can upload your current email list to identify any emails that are invalid or unsubscribed, just not real emails, right? You want to just make sure you're not putting that into your system. You want to clean up your leads and make sure you are sending emails to actual people. And then the next step is to organize your leads into a customer relationship management system, so a CRM. There are many paid CRM tools, but there are a lot of great free resources as well. HubSpot CRM is an example of a free resource that you can use as a place to store all of your leads data. If you want to manage a really powerful email marketing program, you need a plan in place to keep all of your data, which is why we recommend using a tool like a CRM tool. You can also try to keep track of all of your data in an Excel document. It can be that simple, but you just want to have a place that it gets constantly updated so you have accurate data and information that you can use in your email marketing program. The next step is to identify a good strategy around segmenting your email leads into categories that are meaningful to you. So we recently identified 3 content topics for Visit Idaho's upcoming emails, and they are outdoor activities, food and drink, and arts and culture. Now, inside of each of these core content topics, we have identified additional tags and segmentation that fall within that content scope. So these additional content segments will all be tagged when we start to send out emails, so we can slowly start to build a pool of people that are interested in these topics. So if you're using an email marketing platform, you have the ability to tag people based off of their interest, based off of things that they're clicking on. So we, as pairing our email strategy to content, we really wanted to start simple. It doesn't need to be something crazy, right? You can just start really simple, focusing on 3 core content topics. What are you currently building on your website that makes sense for you to expand into your email marketing program? Outdoor activities is a really big one. It's an easy one for Idaho. We have fishing and hiking and skiing and mountain biking, and we can tag all of these things. A user can be tagged based off of what they click on in your email. So now that we have these content topics identified, we can create an email strategy around them. So each email that we send out will have one story related to one of the 3 categories that we have identified. If you are using an email marketing platform such as SharpSpring or Constant Contact, you can create tags for all of your story links. So basically any link that clicks out to your website from your email, you can tag that with a specific topic, a content topic, or category, whatever it is that is kind of an interest pool that you're looking to identify from a user, you can tag people. So for example, if we send out an email and we have one story around hiking that falls within our outdoor activities category, and we have one story around wineries that falls within our food and drink category, and we have one story around our unique hotels that falls within our arts and culture category. Once we send that email out to our list of emails that have subscribed to our email channel, we'll be able to identify who clicks on what link. So if somebody clicks on our arts and culture category, they click on our unique hotel story, we can tag that person as being interested in lodging or interested in hotels. And then we can also tag that person and say, hey, they're interested in arts and culture. So we're really just building up pools of data so that we can later send information to them that is really relevant because we know what they clicked on. We know that they're interested in hotels. Maybe they're looking to book a trip. Maybe they're looking for just a unique vacation to take, right? Once we start tagging our email, pools, and we start to identify exactly what each user inside of our list of email like database that we have, we can then send direct information that is really, truly relevant to that user. And right now, we're just trying to build that data, right? What's most important is to be building this pool of data, to be asking those questions. We can even have forms on our emails that say, hey, are you interested in outdoor activities? And somebody could say yes, but it doesn't have to be that black and white. Sometimes it's really hard to get people to fill out a form and tell you what they're interested in. So with email marketing, many platforms they'd let you do that process without having to directly say, are you interested in this? They just say, hey, there's this really great content story that we produced around hiking. If you're interested in it, you'll let me know because you're going to click on it from the email and you're going to go to the website and you're going to read that story. And now all of a sudden, your name in my list has a new tag that says hiking. They're interested in hiking. And so later, once we gathered enough information in all of these pools of interest that we are targeting, we'll eventually get to start creating more detailed email marketing strategies and basically email marketing sends that are directly related to the topics that each person has identified. So right now we're starting at the top, right? So we have 3 core concepts. We have outdoor activities, food and drink, arts and culture, and we're going to keep sending our email list topics in those 3 categories. We're just going to keep sending them emails to see what they click on. So one person might not click on that first email that you send at all. So you don't know much about them, but maybe you send out a second email that has a couple different stories. And then all of a sudden they do click on a rafting story and they're like, oh yeah, that looks really interesting. Now we can tag them as rafting. And that's going to take a little bit of time. So that's one of the reasons why we're saying this is a really core topic and strategy that you should be implementing right now so that we're prepared for when cookies go away to still be able to deliver really personalized content to our audience of people who are subscribed and engaged and interested in getting content from Visit Idaho. And eventually, once we have our outdoor activities topic filled with, maybe a few thousand people who are interested in all of the different outdoor activities, we can start creating a separate email campaign that's directly targeted towards them, asking them more direct questions like, okay, I know you like hiking. So I'm actually going to send you an email that's all about hiking. And you can tell me if you're interested in hiking in the summer or you're interested in snowshoeing in the winter, or you're interested in camping out next to your hiking trails, right? Like we can get really niche and detailed once we actually know that person is interested in hiking. So that's really the end goal. This year is to collect as much data and as much interest segments that we know of that we can create a content strategy around. And right now it doesn't have to be that detailed yet. For just collecting data, just think of something simple, just 3 key concepts that you want to focus on for all of your emails for the next year, right? For us, it was outdoor activities, food and drink, arts and culture, right? Easy stuff. What is it that your destination provides? I know everyone has some type of outdoor activity that they can provide. So all of a sudden now you have this bucket and you have so much opportunity to then build a content strategy around those interests that people are clicking on and engaging with. And now you have a pool of data that you can use for future marketing efforts and for a really, really great and detailed email marketing strategy. So these are our 3 key tips and tricks and takeaways that we have for you to close out our series. We hope that you can walk away from this series with like real action items. So this is the key takeaways that we have. Actions that you can start to take on right now and build strategies around, right? Create a first-party data strategy. Start understanding the information that you're collecting on people and continue to collect information on people as much as you can, right? Focus your email marketing efforts around collecting that data. And of course, you know, understanding how to provide value with your content, right? So when you're building your email marketing program, how are you providing value when you're asking people for their information? How are you building your content and asking questions about what people are interested in and then creating content based off of those questions? I think Andrea said it perfectly. You know, use your social channels. If people are asking you questions, that means those answers are not very easy to find on your website, right? So make it really easy. And then you can link right to it and say, hey, we are the best resource for this question. And that's really what our value is as a DMO. We want to be the best resource when people are planning a trip, when they have questions about our hiking, our camping, our outdoor activities, right? Whatever it is, but we do have to ask those questions and we have to build a strategy around understanding how we can collect that data even without asking those questions. And so email marketing is a really great way to do that by sending out information to people and seeing what they click on. And all of a sudden now you have a pool of data to say, I know this group, a group of engaged people who are subscribed to my email, they're interested in hiking, they're interested in camping. So I'm going to build a whole email send specifically around hiking and camping to help them get the information that they need and basically to help influence them to finally book that trip to Idaho and come explore. So that's what we have for you guys. Are there any questions?
Hannah, thank you again for that just great information and wrap up. I just wanted to reiterate real quickly, and I see we've got a couple of travel council members on the participating today, so I don't want to speak for them because they ultimately are the folks who make grant awards. But as I see some of our grantees on these calls and we're talking about some of the tools that you've referenced, Hannah, whether it's Zero Bounce, whether it's HubSpot, whether we're talking about SharpSpring or another ESP, these are all programs that can be paid for via the grant program. And so these are things as folks are thinking about their grant application for this upcoming year, as we're thinking about these changes that are happening in the upcoming year, and we're thinking about everything we've talked about over these last few webinars, these are platforms and tools that can be included in your grant and that the program can pay for. So you don't have to come up with these funds, or this is all a part of this more well-rounded programming that we're all going to kind of have to adapt to, as Hannah had said earlier. So again, I can't speak for our council members because they're the ones who ultimately make these awards, but I would bet you a beer that they'll be comfortable with funding some of these things. So keep that in mind, and if you have any questions going forward, please be in touch, because this is so important. And as we can do, when we do this well, we are positioning ourselves tremendously going forward. So other questions, any questions? One question. We got shut out.
Nope.
No.
Too intimidating.
Yeah, it's you. It's yeah. Well, if we don't have any questions, again, thanks to everyone. Andrea, thank you so much for your expertise shared today. Such great info. Obviously, everybody knows how to get a hold of you within our team. Hannah, thank you so much for your help over the last these sessions and everything you do for us outside of this stuff. This is so big, and we really appreciate it. I saw Diane, you turned your camera on here. Do you want to comment?
I just wanted to say thank you for simplifying this. I mean, when you first came, Matt, about the cookieless world, I was thinking of Sesame Street and the Cookie Monster. Because I know you have kids those ages that really like Sesame Street. So thank you for simplifying it.
It's true. It's true. We do love Cookie Monster in our house, but yeah, Hannah, you did a great job simplifying this. And so to echo Hannah's comments earlier too, and I think Diane threw the link in the chat. If you did miss any session, please go back and rewatch, or please, like take that time, because between Dave, between Tim, and I'm blanking on our gentleman from Epsilon's name, but I mean, yeah, these just incredible. These are, such great expertise and such great know-how. And so this is, we were able to get some really great folks to help share some of this information. And so feel free to go back and watch those. But like I said, we will definitely cover some of this ground during our tourism tours. We're excited to see everybody in the next few weeks. And again, if there are any questions in the interim, please don't hesitate to get in touch, because this is a big topic, and we're excited to tackle it. And if we can all do it when we're sharing information and we're working together. So with that, we'll give everybody a little bit of time back in their morning, and looking forward to seeing everybody on the tours here soon.